This episode is brought to you by my friend Rebecca Walzer, a financial expert who can help you protect your wealth. Book your free call with her team by going to friendofdinesh.com. That's friendofdinesh.com. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell and MyPillow is launching My Mattress Topper 2.0. Their new 3-inch MyPillow mattress topper is made up of 3 unique layers. Layer 1, MyPillow patented foam, provides superior support and durability. Layer 2, transitional foam, provides optimal comfort, evenly distributes body weight, and helps relieve pressure points. Layer 3, cover made from a special material to keep your body temperature regulated through the night. This MyPillow mattress topper is washable and dryable. It's made in the USA and comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. This incredible 3-inch mattress topper is as low as $219.59 with promo code Dinesh. So call 1-800-876-0227. Again, that number is 1-800-876-0227, or just go to mypillow.com. But either way, don't forget to use the promo code DINESH Dinesh for big discounts. Hey everyone, I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill. I will be hosting Dinesh's podcast while he's away on vacation this week for his anniversary. He deserves some much needed time off, so while he's gone, you will get me here hosting the show. If you're a regular Dinesh D'Souza listener, then you've probably heard me on here before since I'm the only person who substitutes for him. It's a bit like The Godfather. Everyone, everything stays in the family. So I'm kidding, but no, I love doing the podcast. You may just find that Dinesh and I agree on everything, but I may be even more conservative. So you'll see. But I host a regular show on Epic Times called Counterculture, and I love doing it. I cover news of the week, but especially important cultural and social issues. I've written 2 books, the first titled Why God? An Intelligent Discussion on the Relevance of Faith, and the second titled The Choice, The Abortion Divide in America. I was on the advisory board of Women for Trump and have been involved in the Trump 2020 campaign. I graduated from Dartmouth College in 2017. So that's just a little bit about me in case you're wondering who is hosting the show. But the best way you can find out more about me is to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Truth Social, all the places. I'm at Danielle D'Souza Gill. And that's where you can find a lot of my content, my videos, my thoughts on everything. So today we're going to be talking about reports of Trump potentially being arrested. Trump posted about this on his Truth Social this weekend. He said, quote, "The far and away leading Republican candidate and former president of the United States of America will be arrested on Tuesday of next week," end quote. And naturally, social media erupted. People were outraged, and rightly so. We're also going to be talking to independent journalist Emerald Robinson about all of this and more. So let's get started. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
Markets go up and come down. Smart investors take advantage of the upside of the market while protecting against the downside. We're in a rocky economy with banks going under, stocks sliding, and Biden at the helm. This is a time to be cautious, not reckless. Dinesh and Debbie have a portion of their savings in gold and precious metals because they are the smart hedge against inflation and market downturns. We trust Birch Gold because they have top-notch people to advise us, and they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. If you text Dinesh to 989898, you'll get a free information kit on gold, and then you should talk to Birch Gold about getting started. They offer a free safe to store your physical gold and silver based on qualifying purchases, and they'll also show you how to hold real gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. With Birch Gold, Dinesh sleeps better at night knowing he's headed against market and volatility. So text Dinesh to 989898 for your free info kit on gold and to claim your eligibility for your free home safe by March 31st on qualifying purchases. Again, text Dinesh to 989898. Today, we're going to talk about the impending arrest of Donald Trump. But before we do, let's remind ourselves that as strange as things seem now, there really is nothing new under the sun. As children of the West, we have access to deep stories of experience and knowledge. We've been down this road before. There have been many episodes in our history where evil men gain power and then run amok. For example, take the tale of Sir Thomas More, the man who once was this popular and favorite servant of King Henry. His background was in law. He was an attorney, a judge, and a statesman. At the height of his career, he was made Lord High Chancellor, a position that mixed spiritual author with parliamentary and legal authority. In other words, a very high position. But sadly, he ended up losing that position over his religious beliefs. You see, he was what our current-day FBI would label a rad trad. The king couldn't live with him having those beliefs, so he canceled Thomas More the old-fashioned way, by beheading him. The story of More's rise and fall is commemorated in the play and movie A Man for All Seasons. If you haven't seen it yet, you really should give it a watch. But the themes of law and justice, especially as they impact the tension between church and state, are extremely relevant to our lives now. One particular scene feels especially pertinent to our current situation, where a former president is being railroaded through reckless legal machinations. Much like former President Trump, former Lord High Chancellor More was being spied on by the government through people close to him. At one point in the story, one of his spies tries to blackmail More, but More refused. As the now outed spy leaves the More home, his wife angrily demands that he arrest the interloper. Thomas More refuses for a very simple reason: no law was broken. This adherence to law and order infuriates a young lawyer named Roper. Roper insists that the law is there to protect the evil, so it's irrelevant what law a spy may or may not have broken. Roper makes his case in extreme terms, saying, quote, "So now you give the devil the benefit of law." Roper then admits that if his opponent were the devil, it would be worth it to cut down every law in England. More responds, "Oh, and when the last law was down and the devil turned round on you, where would you hide, Roper, the laws all being flat? This country is planted thick with laws from coast to coast, man's laws, not God's. And if you cut them down and you're just the man to do it, do you really think you could stand upright in the winds that would blow then? Yes, I'd give the devil the benefit to law for my own safety's sake." The statement is as poignant as it is prophetic. In fact, two of the men who worked towards his conviction on the charge of treason were also eventually executed by King Henry. Like the charge that President Trump is facing, More's conviction required a deliberate misreading of the law and a desire to see evidence where there wasn't any. In other words, More's accusers were themselves content to cut down every law that lay between them and their goal. And despite the fact that Thomas More had the advantage of law and legal precedent, his jury declared him guilty more quickly than a DC jury for January 6thers. It was a year ago, almost to the day, that prosecutors resigned from working with Soros-funded Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg because he expressed reluctance in moving forward with prosecutions against Trump. The grand juries had wound down that there was a sense that the case was dead for lack of evidence, that any real crime had been committed. Or perhaps the real reason for the delay was the timing wasn't right. Now that the 2024 campaign season is starting in earnest and Trump's poll numbers improve with each passing day, the organism known as the deep state has been forced to react to protect itself. An indictment now would trigger all sorts of legal maneuvering that could delay a trial until a day after the 2024 election. But who knows what their plan is? With multiple investigations into multiple nothing burgers, it's pretty safe to say that the deep state is leaning hard on legal tactics. On one side of America's forefront of laws, we have Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. On the other, we have special counsel Jack Smith. And somewhere in the middle, we have congressional Democrats led by Jamie Raskin. Between the three of these legal loggers, the forest of laws should be completely clear by midsummer of 2024, if not sooner. But you can't deny that Thomas More is right. Embracing this any means necessary approach to law is a bad idea. And not just for Trump and his supporters. Many Democrats are too caught up in their enthusiasm. It really looks like they are completely unaware of the unintended consequences here. They need to slow down and ask themselves if they really want to live in this new legal landscape. Republicans who have not spoken up about this should also ask themselves, is this the kind of country that I want to live in, where political opponents are jailed and we're basically in a third world country? Think about all the ways in which the law has already been twisted out of all recognition. For example, the January 6thers, massive roundups of over 1,000 people for the crime of protesting, unconstitutional pretrial detention in jails where the prisoners are subjected to cruel and unusual punishment. Last week, we found out that the FBI has been spying and acting on privileged attorney-client communications and withholding exculpatory evidence. Then you have all the pro-lifers being rounded up for the FACE Act violations, a law which has never before been invoked by any prosecutor since its creation. For Mark Houck, he was charged by the federal government despite his case being thrown out at the local level. You also have local associations working to disbar any attorney that worked with Trump. So to sum up, in the face of an election they know they can't win, Democrats have opted to demolish our justice system. Thanks to that, we now live in a country where the Constitution can be dismissed on a mere whim and no one's rights are safe. You can be rounded up and jailed for saying something on the internet or taking a selfie in the Capitol. You can be charged with crimes that aren't even in the U.S. criminal code, all with or without evidence. Oh, and if you try to hire an attorney, they will be disbarred at the first available opportunity. That and a lot of laws laid flat. It's clear we are witnessing a corrupt institution in a state of profound panic. So why are they panicking? Consider the degenerate White House resident whose entire family is a criminal influence peddling operation, receiving millions from an adversarial communist government. A government that this same administration is somehow also threatening to go to war against if it continues to aid Russia or invades Taiwan. It's no surprise that unhinged Democrats have whipped themselves into an irrational frenzy and believe Trump is their devil. But in their current maniacal state, they seem very much like young Roper from A Man for All Seasons. Their puritanical furor has put them out of touch with their surroundings. So now would be a good time to put the same question to Democrats that Moore put to Roper. When the last law is down, Democrats, do you really think you could stand upright in the winds that would blow then? Dinesh and Debbie started eating better this year and are on the road to losing some weight. But one of the foods they can't seem to eat enough of, and it's a requirement, are veggies. What better way to get all your fruits and veggies in than by taking Balance of Nature? Sourced from 31 whole fruits and vegetables, you'll get maximum nutrition with their star product, fruits and veggies in a capsule. They not only look better, but they make you feel better too, with lots of added energy that Balance of Nature gives them. Start your journey to better health right now. Take advantage of their New Year's offer. Get $25 off plus free fiber and spice with your first preferred order of fruits and veggies when you use discount code AMERICA. This offer can end at any time. Call 1-800-246-8751. That's 1-800-246-8751. Or go to balanceofnature.com and use discount code AMERICA. I am delighted to welcome our guest today, Emerald Robinson. Emerald is the host of Absolute with E on frankspeech.com. She is an ex-Newsmax and ex-OANN White House correspondent. She's been named the top 10 Twitter influencer by the Washington Post. To follow her thoughts, you can subscribe to her Substack account. Emerald, thanks for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. It's really good to talk with you.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited to get your thoughts on this because I know that this whole weekend has been crazy ever since Trump truthed that he might be arrested on Tuesday. And of course, everyone has been kind of trying to figure out, is this going to happen tomorrow? Is this going to happen later this week? I've seen different reports. Some people are saying that because there's another witness coming forth today that maybe it won't happen tomorrow. But either way, what was kind of your reaction to seeing this news over the weekend?
Well, not shocking for me. I've been saying since last year that the plan ultimately for Democrats, whether it's the Biden DOJ at the federal level, or you've got the states that are also like, New York, which we're seeing with Alvin Bragg, and then Georgia down in Fulton County, the district attorney down there trying to arrest Trump. We knew it was coming. Now, am I a little bit surprised that it could be a state level charge before the actual federal charges from the Biden DOJ? Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that because I'll be honest, I've been talking to people since early last year within the DOJ that are not exactly Biden activists like the majority of the DOJ, that is ultimately the goal under Merrick Garland. They've been looking at a way to arrest Donald Trump. There was some thought that it would even come on federal charges before January. There was some talk of before the midterm elections, but I don't think they quite have it lined up. So the real question is here, I think, is how involved is the federal level, the DOJ in Washington, D.C. with this state level charge? Now, either this Manhattan district attorney is going outside of the Biden administration and just going ahead, or either there's some consideration that there's possibly a Biden DOJ. We know a former attorney from the DOJ, the Biden DOJ, has been former, so is now being hired or has been hired there to help with building this case. So you could say there is some level of Biden federal orchestration on this, but it is the actual now acting officials in the DOJ in DC helping to orchestrate this, and possibly it is because they can't build the case with what they want to be a January 6 charges. And they're just looking at a way to get him in any possible way they can and then watch the dominoes fall from there. No matter what, even if it's state level or federal level, this is a former sitting president of the United States. So it has major implications for our republic in that everyone will be asking, you have to question, are we still a constitutional republic when you can arrest your political opponent who has been a president on these kind of drummed up charges? I mean, I know you probably looked into it, Danielle. These kind of arrangements are made all the time. And they're not anything that ever really gets prosecuted, no matter if they put it on their books or how they put it on their books. So if they go through with this, and it looks like they're going to, unless they get cold feet today in New York, we're on our pathway to really being a banana republic, which I think in so many ways we are already.
How do you relate this to the raid at Mar-a-Lago and just kind of all of these other things? They've been trying to get Trump in different ways. And you mentioned kind of the state versus federal things. And I'm sure that this is probably, all people who think the same of Trump and that they want to get Trump on something. Do you think that this could be because they weren't able to move forward with other charges or other things that they tried to find? Because it seems like them going after him over this Stormy Daniels thing, it's kind of silly. I mean, Bill Clinton probably, did much more, paid off people. And I'm not even saying that that Trump did anything wrong, but it just seems like a crazy reason to arrest a former president because there are many crimes that we could say about Biden, Hillary Clinton, others. And so do you think that this is about the Stormy Daniels case, or do you think that this is kind of their way of going after him because they weren't able to do more from Mar-a-Lago or other investigations?
That's exactly what I think it is. It's obviously not about Stormy Daniels. And when you look at the amount of money that's usually involved with high profile people, especially millionaires and billionaires, the amount of money she was given suggests that there was nothing there. It was go away money. I know lawyers who, unfortunately orchestrate deals like this all the time. And this is an extremely small amount of money. And these do happen all the time. And I think you're right. I think, or what you suggest, they tried with the raid on Mar-a-Lago, but that all fell apart when you learned about Biden's retention of classified documents that are sound much more sensitive than anything that Trump had. And Biden didn't have the power at the time to declassify. Donald Trump absolutely had executive power to declassify any document he wanted at any time. Then you had also former Vice President Mike Pence who had these documents. That whole narrative fell apart. And there was really nothing, it sounds like, there in Mar-a-Lago that really built the case for them to go ahead with, though they have that special counsel appointed Jack Smith, who again is digging everywhere he can. He's a very partisan actor. He's very anti-Trump, no matter what they try to spin about him, and they're still digging there. The issue with, let's say, the January 6th related stuff that they tried to get him on, right? Trying to build this narrative, this case for conspiracy with the Proud Boys, with Oath Keepers, with members of Congress. They haven't been able to find any true links there, and they're running out on the statute of limitations. In fact, the Biden DOJ and the FBI plan to arrest hundreds of more people in the next few months, fast and furiously, because the statute of limitations are running out. And you know they had to be looking at that in regards to Donald Trump as well. For this to be the best case they have, and this is extremely flimsy, tells you they've been investigating Donald Trump since 2016. They have spent day in and day out trying to take the man down. And if this is what they feel they can go forward with, it's extremely flimsy. But Danielle, we don't live in a country that exactly has rule of law anymore. You see how the J6 defendants are denied their due process. In a territory like the districts of Columbia or New York, no one gets a fair trial. So they will push it as hard as they can because, and it's amazing, right? Because they managed to get him out in 2020. I know your father did the documentary that shows how they orchestrated it on one level, and there were so many tactics, so many measures they did to enable the steal, because it was a steal of the 2020 election, but somehow, in some way, they're still worried about him, which boggles my mind because I feel like there's been nothing done to fix what happened in 2020, and we saw that in Arizona 2022. Yet they're still worried that there will be what I called in 2016 a spontaneous outburst of democracy, where they will be so overwhelmed with his supporters again that they can't enact the steal. And I think that's very telling, but they're doing everything they can to prevent it, to the detriment further of our republic.
Right. And I wanted to get your reaction to this. Some people are claiming that this, basically, they want to do this right now because they want to distract us from other things that are going on that are really scary. So things like the banking collapse. Let's see. This person says, the bankers will ensure we stay in debt. The pharmaceutical companies will ensure we stay sick. The weapons manufacturers will ensure we keep going to war. The media will ensure we are prevented from knowing the truth. So do you think that this is all orchestrated at this time because people at B don't want us to take money out of banks? That's just one thought that someone threw out on Twitter.
I think it definitely serves several purposes, right? Like you said, there's the banking crisis. There's also the continued fallout from the so-called vaccines. And, you know, this comes shortly after the revelations from Project Veritas in regards to that Pfizer executive. And also the fact that the Ukraine conflict is not going the way that the Pentagon, the Biden administration assured us it would go. And we continue to throw billions more over there as it escalates and puts our own national security at risk. That further escalated with the shooting down of the drone, with the revelations about our likely involvement with the destruction of the pipeline. America is in a very, very sensitive place right now. We don't have the military. We don't have the supplies within our defense in order to even really engage in a major conflict should, say, China decide they really want to do something. And Americans are becoming more aware of it. So yes, this is another look at that shiny object, but it also serves the purpose to go ahead and start trying to take care of Donald Trump, as he is the most viable candidate right now on the Republican nomination for 2024. And it is, here's what I think people should pay attention to, especially Republicans, is that this is all happening while we have a majority in the House. Now, I understand that they don't You don't have the Senate really, so they're limited on what they can do, but there's a lot they can do. So watch very closely what Republicans do during this, what they say, but especially what they do, because they promise a lot and there's supposed to be accountability. And so far, things just continue to head in the direction that the Biden administration and Democrats want it to.
Yeah. I wanted to get your reaction to why you think maybe some people are speaking up on this topic. Some people have not spoken up. I am curious to see as the days go on what some people's response might be. But I guess, do you think that that is something people should be paying attention to this week, as some people don't comment on this topic?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any need for equivocation here. We're talking about a former sitting president who is now a candidate for the presidency again, being arrested by his political opponent. That is no small matter. That is threatening to our very country, no matter what party you're in. And those GOP hopefuls for the presidential nomination, whether they're in or out, should be definitive. They should have very strong statements on what this threat is to our country and actually what it means. And if they can't say that at this point, you have to question them, because I don't understand it. Now, I know that Ron DeSantis did get asked about it just a little earlier today, I believe, and he said there were more important issues to focus on, and he and Florida weren't going to really get involved in it. But it might be a New York matter, but Donald Trump is a resident in his state now. He is governor, and he is also probably, based on everything I hear, getting into the race himself. And especially if he needs to be very strong on that. This is absolutely unconstitutional, and that the charges don't warrant that. Now, he can be a contender. He can challenge Donald Trump on the issues as a candidate, but I don't think he did himself. And I think Ron DeSantis has done a great job in Florida. I know a lot of Florida residents aren't going to be happy if he has to resign or he drops out and he campaigns, because they're pretty happy having him as governor. But he usually has the right comeback. He always has the right thing to say, but I don't think he did himself any favors with that statement regarding the charges related to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I saw that. I think Vivek Ramaswamy commented on it. He said, because he's running for president also, but said that basically, this is not the kind of country we want to live in. And it doesn't matter if this is your opponent in the primary. This is crazy. And so I think that that's a way that DeSantis or Nikki Haley or other people could respond if they wanted to run for president. And it's not really about the fact that you're running against him or may run against him. It's about the fact that this is a former president, and this is not something that should be happening in a country like America, where we literally are questioning whether we're becoming a third world country. I mean, Trump has truthed a lot that we're becoming a third world country, we're becoming a banana republic, and I think people see it happening, but the more this kind of thing happens to someone like Trump, the more people think, wow, this is like, we're already there. This is true.
Yeah, and you have to agree with Trump. You might not agree with him on all the issues, but when he says, they're coming for me as a way to get to you, we've already seen a lot of that with the January 6th defendants. Like, there are people who just walked into, as we recently saw, walked into the Capitol building, walked right back out. At the most, they would be guilty of trespassing. But you have to keep in mind, a lot of those barriers have been taken down before. These people didn't even know that they weren't supposed to be in what was a restricted area, because this is the people's house, taxpayers funded. Usually you can show your ID and you can go right into the Capitol. You can see certain areas of the Capitol. So it's even questionable if they were guilty of trespassing in many cases, given that they didn't know it had been a previously restricted area, since there were some of those people out there taking down the barriers. But they're getting treated worse than murderers and rapists, denied their basic rights in pretrial detainment. And then you look at Pastor Houck in Pennsylvania, a pro-life activist, not guilty of, it was questionable if he was guilty of the harassment. It doesn't even look like it that they accused him of. And he was treated like a murderer and a rapist, worse. So we're already to the point where they're coming after you. And it's very, very clear. So it might be President Trump today, but it's getting closer and closer to you. And in many cases, we've already seen it with regular citizens. So this is when the candidates aren't speaking out in a big way about this, I think you have to watch, because we've seen too many Republicans go to Congress or get in positions of power and do nothing about the overreaching, the growing national security state that is now turned inward on Americans in our country and are targeting American citizens for their ideology and beliefs as domestic terrorists.
Okay, Emerald, I want to get your reaction to this. This is a tweet from Cernovich. He says the easiest win that DeSantis could take right now is to post something like this, or to make this kind of a statement. He says, Donald Trump is a citizen of Florida, a Soros-funded district attorney who has allowed anti-Semitic violence to send New York City into a state of anarcho-tyranny, is allegedly seeking to take Trump into custody on spurious charges. I am prepared to exercise my lawful authority as governor to examine the legality of any extradition request to ensure that no citizen of my state will have his rights violated by vindictive prosecutors in other states. So do you think saying something like that, or just attempting to have some kind of similar statement, might help?
Yeah, and that's actually, I agree with Cernovich on that. And that's sort of what I expected from Ron DeSantis. And it's actually sort of a safe bet for him, because it's questionable. With this being, it's according to how Alvin Bragg handles it in New York. I mean, this is technically a white collar crime. There should be a warrant put out, and then Donald Trump would voluntarily turn himself over, show up in New York. So there wouldn't be any true extradition question. So that should be a pretty easy statement for DeSantis to make, and that's typically the kind of language he uses and the strong stance he takes. So I was very surprised that isn't what we heard from him. And a lot of people are questioning why. I'm questioning why. I don't have any particular insight into why. Some say it's because he would benefit politically from Trump getting arrested. I'm not sure that's true. It can backfire. I think that they only make Trump stronger on the Republican side, because it makes him even more a martyr. And he's very popular. He still owns the Republican Party. You look at any polling, DeSantis is the second place as far as favorability of Republican voters, but there's no question that it's still Trump's party. So I think it only makes him stronger. But I think that DeSantis not coming out and saying it, whether he can do anything or not, doesn't play very well with what is still Trump's base. That will likely end up being his base. I mean, as far as right now, he is, after Donald Trump, considered the future of the Republican Party. It's just a lot of Trump's voters would rather him wait and serve out as governor and wait his turn, they say.
Right. And he has shown so much leadership with Disney and so many other things, and even the, drag queen story time. And so I feel like when someone violates something, or a company, the government in this situation, he would normally have a pretty strong response. So that definitely surprises me, just based on kind of his usual approach. Yeah. But I did want to ask you, what do you think this will look like? Let's say Trump is arrested. What will that look like as a candidate for him moving forward for 2024? Do you think that you kind of mentioned this may strengthen him as a candidate? Some people have indicated that them kind of going after him strengthens Trump, but if it continues kind of too far, it will harm him. I'm not really sure about that. But I guess, how do you see that playing out? We've never really had a candidate running for president who is in this kind of a situation.
We're certainly in uncharted territory. And when you hear people say that it could hurt him in the long run, they're really specifically talking about donors, the big donors, saying, okay, well, this is too much of a liability. We're not going to back him anymore. We're not going to give him the big dollars to his PAC. He won on so little in 2016. One could say that maybe he doesn't need that again this go round. I tend to think it helps him more than it hurts him, because with the regular voters, they're not in line with the donor class anyway. Now, that donor class is increasingly shifting to Ron DeSantis, as is Fox News. In fact, well before this, months ago, by the end of last year, I had already heard that Fox News hosts, major ones like Laura Ingraham, which we saw last week, are making their shift to DeSantis. That's something that the network at the top has wanted to do. So Trump's already lost them anyway, but it doesn't seem to have hurt him with the people. I guess it just remains to be seen. Look, this Manhattan DA is going to push forward with it. That's not the only one. I think it's still likely that the Biden DOJ tries to come up with some sort of charges and charge him federally, because really that has been their goal since day one. I think it's been pretty clear. I think Merrick Garland has been pretty open about that being what they want to do. He'll always say, well, no one's above the law, and he will never say they won't indict the former president. He leaves that door open, and in talking to people behind the scenes, I know that that's definitely conversations and what the goal that they're working towards. Look, a lot can happen in the next, less than 2 years. And you always think, I remember covering the White House, you always thought, well, once we get through this, then I'll tell you, then it's going to be this. And it's not been that. We've been this now. Donald Trump has been such a disruptive force in American politics. And whether you thought he did a great job or not, or if you thought maybe he could have done a few things better, or he maybe should have fired a few people, which I think I would have liked to see a lot of different personnel in the White House. And I hope if he's there again, I mean, he faces a real uphill battle getting there, especially considering our elections have not been fixed. But I would hope he's learned some personnel tips since then, to put it nicely. He was a disruptive force, and he did more than anything. He was a flashlight. He revealed what our members of Congress on both sides of the aisle were really doing. He was more of people are more aware of the uniparty that includes the so-called Republicans and Democrats more than ever before. And since then, since the day he came into the picture, they have furiously and with panic tried to stop him and his movement, but it's awakened so many people. It is now beyond Donald Trump. Now, he's still the face of it, but that genie is not going back in the box. And I can tell you, having been in that swamp for so long, they're not going to slow down anytime headed into 2024. So yes, Donald Trump is going to continue to be targeted, and we'll see how people stick with him.
Yeah. This may be a pipe dream, but I wish that it could be Trump and DeSantis together because they're so powerful. And I think they have so many people who love them that it could really just be a huge winning ticket. But I can see how that likely may not happen. But do you think that in some way, maybe over time, because they're sort of yin and yang people, that maybe they would come together for the country?
That's a good question. Now, they're both from Florida, so putting them on the same ticket, but look, with Trump, no one's completely out of the picture, right? We've learned that people can burn him and they show up later along. And I guess I think here's the thing about DeSantis. He's done a great job in Florida, but we're still trying to know exactly who he is. And a lot of people it doesn't sit comfortably with him that the establishment right now seems to be behind him. And maybe that's just as a way to get rid of Donald Trump. Maybe they'll turn on him too. We don't know. And the big donor class that doesn't really hold true conservative values, some of them are behind him. And people question that. But again, this could be another way to get rid of Trump. We don't know. So perhaps as we learn more about DeSantis' foreign policy, because look, these people really, really particularly hated Trump for his, closing down the border, his border wall policy, because that was free labor, cheap labor and all kinds of other things coming into the country that some of these big businesses benefit from. And then there's also the foreign policy aspect of this. And we're seeing with the members of Congress is we see this money flow to Ukraine and we have no accountability for it. They don't even want to do an audit, right? Trump was disruptive on that sense because his foreign policy was different. It wasn't the status quo. No matter who's in the presidency, everything always stays the same, right? He disrupted that, and that disrupted a lot of money chains. So we have to still learn who DeSantis is, and he has done a great job for Florida, and has really kind of put those America First principles in place in Florida in a way that has greatly benefited the state. So one would think that he and Trump should be aligned. But, we still have to find out more. And I don't know I don't think you would ever see President Trump, Vice President DeSantis, but perhaps if you had a President Trump and then DeSantis served his term as governor, then there would be a great high level appointment for DeSantis that would lead its way to the future presidency for DeSantis as then an obvious predecessor. And perhaps the two could work together that way. Now, they're both very strong personalities and strong men. And sometimes that don't work out real well in politics, as you know. But I read a lot of history because I'm, I have a 6-year-old and he's actually in a great school that teaches real American history. And we read about Jefferson and Madison and Monroe and all their squabbles and how they were friends and allies at one point, enemies, and they go back and forth. So that's happened a lot in American history. I think, Danielle, though, the real future, and that none of that will be possible unless we clean up our elections.
And Emerald, my last quick question for you is, do you think the other candidates like Nikki Haley, let's just say, or maybe a Pence or someone like that, do you think they all feel like, wow, how come Fox, how come they're all supporting DeSantis and not me? Or do you think that they feel like, these people have all coalesced around DeSantis and they're going to make it anyways? Or how do you think they view that?
I mean, look, Mike Pence and Nikki Haley are like the broccoli or even the little, for looks only dressing, the cilantro that they put on your dinner plate at fancy restaurants that you actually don't want to eat and you didn't ask for it, but they keep shoving them down your throat. None of the Republican voters want them. They know that the establishment knows that, but that ups their value later for making money if they're in the race. I'm not sure they actually really care, to be honest.
Wow. All right. Well, Emerald, thank you so much for your thoughts. And guys, if you want to follow Emerald, you can find her on social media or you can subscribe to her Substack account. Thanks, Emerald.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Dinesh and Debbie started taking Relief Factor 2 years ago, and the difference they have seen in their joints the past 2 years has been nothing short of amazing. Aches and pains are gone thanks to this 100% drug-free solution called Relief Factor. Relief Factor supports your body's fight against inflammation that's the source of aches and pains. The majority of the people who try Relief Factor order more because it works for them. Debbie has been able to do the exercises that for several years she wasn't able to do. It's been a game changer for her, her aunt, and other members of her family, and for many other people. You too can benefit. Try it for yourself by ordering the 3-week quick start for the discounted price of only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call the new number 1-800-4-RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. Feel the difference. And we are back. Trump truthed that he may be arrested on Tuesday. If this happens, this would be absolutely crazy. There are 3 reasons why the left wants Trump to be arrested. 1, the left hates the America First movement. In 2016, the left never saw coming all of the support this movement would have. They had no idea that the forgotten men and women of America would speak up and choose to vote for America first. Now, this clearly upset the powers that be. This upset the status quo in Washington. Trump was clearly not a Bush Republican, and so this freaked out a lot of the political class and the elites in the swamp who thrive on America remaining stagnant. So the left wanted America first to lose, and once they recovered from the shock of their loss in 2016, they became determined to take down Trump in any way possible. Whether that's the media colluding with Democrat politicians and big business or elite colleges, the left went into full force take down Trump mode. Democrats have been trying to remove Trump for years. Even while he was president, the left attempted impeachment twice. Obviously, this failed, and Trump remained president, but the left was so desperate to get rid of him that they literally wasted years of our lives on impeachment, as well as on claims of Russia collusion, other waste of time investigations. Yet still, the left could not take down Trump or the America First movement. Number 2, but why do they really want Trump to be arrested? Well, because when he exited the White House after the 2020 election, they wanted nothing more than to perp walk him out of there. They didn't get that chance, so now this is their chance. They want humiliation, to humiliate Trump and all Trump supporters. They want all of us to feel bad for voting for Trump or decide to change course. Number 3, the left knows that Trump is a force to be reckoned with. He has so much personality and so much pull in the Republican Party. He has supporters all around the country. He got millions of votes. He's our number 1 frontrunner candidate for president in 2024 right now. And this intimidates them. They wouldn't be able to handle 4 more years of Trump as president. And the left is afraid of the power of the Trump movement and what the legacy of America First might mean if Trump remains a powerful force. So what can we do about this? Well, we can impeach Biden. If they're going to impeach Trump, and they're going to arrest Trump, then we can certainly impeach Biden. We should do that anyway because of the Biden crime family. But that's a must at this point because the left stops at nothing. We all know our digital privacy is under attack. Big tech steals your private information, pictures, chat, and email. This is very bad. So is there a better way? Yes, there is. Secure, spelled S-E-K-U-R, offers secure instant messaging and email, hosted in Switzerland, without using any of the big tech platforms and using Swiss privacy laws, which are the strictest in the world. Debbie and Dinesh just signed up for Secure and love it. They've started using it. Secure's proprietary technology allows you to communicate privately without fear of spying from big tech companies on your email, provider, or hackers. Use Secure to chat or email with everyone, including non-secure users, thanks to Secure's unique features, Secures and Chat by Invite. Secure is an email and messaging application that guarantees your privacy. Go to secure.com, that's SEKUR.com, and use promo code Dinesh to receive 25% off for the next 24 months. Well, that wraps up today's show. Make sure to follow me on social media if you like today's episode. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, True Social, all the places. I'm at Danielle D'Souza Gill. That's where you can find a lot of my content, my videos. I host a show regularly on Epic Times called Counterculture, and I'd love to see you over there as well. And I'll see you all tomorrow.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.